Hi everyone! I am continuing this, at this point, series where I draw a character of mine for a week. Basically, I made this prompt list focused on the character's design and story. I make videos out of it, which are a nice way to find information about said character in one place. I have already tackled Daisy and Bonnie. I made a community post asking you guys who you would like to see next, and it was pretty divided. A lot of people were asking to see my many magic characters again, which I didn't expect, to be honest. I didn't think you guys cared about them this much. This video isn't about them, and I'm not sure how well they can work in this specific format, but I'll try to do something else with them. Other characters that were requested a lot were Mingyu and Elsa, and I decided to do Elsa first. Mingyu will be next in line. So let's not waste any more time and just get into it. As usual in these videos, I start by drawing a blank base of the character. A lot of the prompts are outfit prompts, and to save time I like to do a dress-up doll kind of thing, instead of drawing every single outfit from scratch. But if you decide to do this challenge, you can do it however you want. This is just what I choose to do. So, Elsa is from my story called The Witch's Sorrows, and she's pretty much the villain. She's 19, a witch just like Bonnie, but she's opposite to her in a lot of ways. Unlike Bonnie, Elsa is obsessed with her powers. She studied them, practiced different spells, even the rare and forbidden ones. She wants to be as strong as possible and will do anything to achieve that. She's impulsive and stubborn, doesn't think about the consequences until it's too late. Another big part of her character is that she can't connect to people in healthy ways. Even as a child, she had trouble keeping friendships, and it just kept getting worse as she got older. She also has a habit of exclusively using people's full names, no matter how close they are to her. Even with Dan and Ben, she always calls them Daniel and Benjamin, no matter how many times they ask her to use the shorter versions. For now, here's the base. Love it. Moving on to the actual prompts. First up is default design. Pretty self-explanatory, though Elsa doesn't exactly have one. I decided to go with this look, since that's the one I always use as a reference. It's simple, but not everything has to be complicated, right? Next is old design. Often your character's look changes the more you draw them. It can be accidental, they just gradually change with your style, or you take in new inspirations and add little changes to the character. Or you might be like me and you completely redo them, give them a brand new design and even story. I've done this a few times on my channel with quite a few of my old characters, and Elsa is one of them. I originally made her when I was in middle school, around 2018, but I can be 100% sure. She was actually one of the last characters I added to that universe before completely abandoning it. She didn't really get much of a story or personality. I remember she was a writer and dated Ben, though I never drew them actually being a couple. I drew her a handful of times, and I was honestly lucky to find at least something of her. She used to be very different from current Elsa. She's a lot calmer, her style is very different. Actually, when I first redesigned her, I tried to keep her style kind of similar, but that didn't last very long. It was interesting to draw this design again. My old art style is different from my current one. Though now that I did this, it really just looks like a younger version of Elsa. That's cute. Next, formal clothes. What the character would wear to a party, or prom, or some other event. I don't have much to say about this one. It's just a red dress, probably made out of velvet. Red velvet, some would say. Some accessories, and that's about it. Moving on to school uniform, and this time I decided to do something a little bit more complicated. I drew a flashback of Elsa and Ben when they were in school. Like I mentioned, Elsa has always had trouble keeping friendships, but Ben was one of those people that stayed with her through all her outbursts. Some say it's because he understands her, others say it's because he's way too nice and can't speak up. Regardless, Elsa was happy to have him in her life. She tried to spend as much time with him as possible. While away from him, she was still talking about him every chance she got, and before she knew it, she had feelings for him. The feelings were mutual, but Ben lacked the courage to confess, and Elsa believed that he has to be the one to do it. So for a while they were in this will they, won't they dynamic, which made Dan's and Daisy's life a living hell, especially for Daisy. But one day Elsa was looking through her family's spell books, and she came across a love spell. It was one of the forbidden spells, but it was exactly what Elsa needed. She only read the instructions and ignored all the downsides and side effects. What could possibly go wrong? It was a serious ritual. She needed something that belongs to Ben, there was blood involved. Elsa did it in secret, and the next day she already saw results. Ben pulled her aside, gave her flowers, and finally confessed his feelings for her. Though he immediately said that he loves her instead of likes, but Elsa didn't think much of it and actually found it really romantic. They started dating, and it was still hell for Dan and Daisy. Ben and Elsa were the typical overly affectionate couple that made everyone around them sick. And I think that's enough for now. Let's move on to the next prompt. Next are PJs, what the character would wear to bed. And for this one, I actually did two variations, mostly because I couldn't decide on one. The first set is a nightgown, it's red and see-through, and the second one is more casual and simple. Not much else to say here. Moving on to Fursona, and if your OC is already a furry, draw them as a human. This prompt is always the most challenging for me, and I was having a lot of trouble with it this time around. I usually do the prompts in order, but I had to leave this one for last. I didn't know which animal to choose for Elsa, so I asked my Instagram followers for suggestions. I got quite a few. A leopard, a wolf, a panther, snake, puma, raven. But the most popular one was a fox, so that's what I did. It fits Elsa really well. She's sly, pretty, and laughs really loud. I didn't do anything crazy in terms of composition, it's just a bust. I don't think I did too bad. I'm kind of getting the hang of it. Maybe. Next prompt is as a kid/adult. If your character is an adult, draw them as a child, and if they're already a child, draw them as an adult. Simple. For this, I drew Elsa as a toddler with her mom Paula, before the relationship got completely ruined. So, the way the witch powers work is a witch inherits them from her mother, and there can be just one witch per generation. The powers usually show up at around 13 years old, but there can be signs before that. Then the witch gets gifted a crystal, usually made into a piece of jewelry. The crystal takes some of the power from the previous owner, gives it to the new one, and helps stabilize it. Elsa is a bit of a special case. Paula doesn't actually have any powers. She's the oldest child in her family, and ever since she was little she felt neglected or that she wasn't loved as much because she didn't have powers. It became a lot more apparent when her younger sister was born, and later it turned out that she does have powers. When Paula turned 18, she moved out and went low, then no contact with her family. She didn't want anything to do with them and the powers. She just wanted to live her own life, and she did. For a few years, she found a husband, had a daughter, everything was perfect. But then, when Elsa was 5, her powers showed up. She excitedly ran to Mom to show her, but Paula froze in place. She was frantic. She told Elsa to stop and to not do that ever again, But it was too late. Her estranged family already knew. Soon after that, they arrived to her house, invaded her space, and surrounded Elsa. Everyone was so happy and excited, giving little Elsa gifts and compliments. Turns out that Paula's sister has fertility issues and can't have kids, and the whole family was so scared that their bloodline was going to end. But with little Elsa here, they are safe. Paula was mortified. Their family that never treated her equally, that didn't even try to check on her all these years, are now in her house, her life, acting all happy and loving like nothing ever happened. And still, none of them even care to know what she thinks about it. All the attention is on Elsa, Paula is ignored, and she has to just swallow it. Again. She tried so hard to get away from that life, but it found her. And from there, her relationship with Elsa changed forever. Paula resented her daughter. It was getting worse over time. She was getting worse over time. Moving on to swimwear, what the character would wear to the beach, I decided to not use the base and do something more interesting. With the base, this would have taken me maybe 5 seconds to do, and that's boring. So here is Elsa sitting on the beach. The background isn't the best. I don't think I've ever drawn a beach before, but Elsa looks pretty. Moving on to winter clothes. I usually draw my characters in clothes suitable for warm weather, but it's fun to imagine what they will look like during the winter. It also adds to their personality. Do they get cold easily? Do they care about looks or comfort? It's small, but still fun. Elsa has a big selection of coats and matching boots. She likes to look beautiful, and she doesn't get cold very easily, so that's pretty easy to achieve. I like this outfit, though maybe I should have given her a pair of tights to look more wintry. Without them, this looks more like a fall outfit, but whatever, too late now. After exploring the character's style, time to do the complete opposite. I didn't go for a specific style with Elsa. She just wears a lot of feminine and skin tight clothing, lots of lace, and in terms of color, she mostly wears black and red. As the opposite style, I actually chose Dan's style. I literally went on a Pinterest board I have for him and took an outfit from there. Dan's style is just sporty, basically. He doesn't put much effort into his clothes and just wears anything comfortable, and it's very far from what Elsa wears. Not much else to say here. It was unusual to draw her like this, but she still rocks it. This next section gets a little graphic and heavy, so I want to give some warnings just in case. If that's something you don't want to see or hear, skip to this timestamp. Next is with a character they're closest to. I didn't have to think for even a second. Of course, I drew her with Ben, but as adults. So, the spell works and they start dating. Everything looked pretty normal for a while. Yeah, they were clingy and it was unbearable to be around them, but they were teenagers. It is what it is. But slowly, Ben started changing. He was even more clingy. All he thought and talked about was Elsa, to the point his other relationships got affected. His family noticed the changes and tried to help however they could, but those attempts usually ended in arguments. Ben would scream and storm out of the house. It was very out of character for him. He's always been calm and sweet, never talked back, but it was chalked up to puberty. Elsa, on the other hand, wasn't much better. Her and Daisy used to be very close, but at some point Daisy just couldn't keep going like this. Every conversation was about Ben, anything Daisy said got ignored. Whenever she wanted to spend time with just Elsa, Ben had to be there. I'm definitely not speaking from experience. It got exhausting, and Daisy, with a heavy heart, ended that friendship. Elsa didn't take it well. She lashed out, called Daisy jealous. Nothing was resolved. Both Ben and Elsa isolated themselves pretty much, but they didn't mind. For now, at least. Ben's symptoms were getting worse. He started to feel physically sick when away from Elsa. He needed to be next to her at all times. It got too much even for her. Only now did she realize that maybe the spell wasn't a very good idea. She tried to find a way to reverse it, but there wasn't one. It's a very unstable spell, there are lots of possible side effects, and you can't reverse it. That's why it's forbidden and shouldn't be performed. That's no good, but Elsa is determined. She decides to just come clean to Ben, tell him the truth, and maybe that will help break him out of this. They agree to meet in a secluded spot. There is a specific place in their town couples go to because it's so beautiful. But before Ben leaves, he gets in a really bad argument with Dan. They scream at each other like never before, and Ben storms out. In the forest, the two meet up. Ben is frantic. He's talking about how horrible everyone in their town is, how the two of them should run away and live together forever. He keeps repeating himself. Elsa can barely get a word in. He starts grabbing her arms, pulling on them. Elsa is genuinely scared at this point. She pulls away and just blurts out everything about the spell. She's reassuring him and herself that she did it to help, that she still wants to be with him. Ben just stares at her blankly, then a drop of blood comes out of the corner of his mouth, and he just collapses on the ground. Elsa is panicking. She doesn't know what's going on. She's desperately clinging to him, trying to wake him up. But it was already too late. Ben died from broken heart syndrome, the biggest side effect of a love spell. He found out the truth, and his heart couldn't handle it. Elsa decides to get help. She rushes home and in a panic begs her mother for help. But instead, Paula screamed at her, berated her for doing something so dangerous, and told her to pack her bags. They're leaving. Elsa starts panicking even more, but Paula shuts it down. In the end, they left their town, left Ben there, in the forest, all alone. Flash forward to 5 years later, Elsa is back in town for a very specific reason. All these years she has been studying even more magic without Paula's knowledge. And she was determined to do an even more dangerous spell, the reviving spell. This ritual required a lot of life energy, time, and patience, and eventually, it worked. Elsa was so happy, but it still didn't go quite how she expected it. Ben wasn't fully healed yet. At first he couldn't speak properly. The memories of his life were fuzzy and blurred together. The only person he could remember was Elsa. She had to put his body back together, so those wounds needed time to heal too. But on a brighter note, he seemed to be back to his sweet self. Elsa was over the moon. Ben is back, she's taking care of him. But, of course, something has to go wrong. Elsa had a pet cat that she found on the street. It kept her company while waiting for Ben to wake up. One evening, Elsa comes back home, but both Ben and the cat are nowhere to be seen. She looks around and finds Ben terrified, his mouth covered in blood, apologizing. She immediately goes to comfort him. The grisly view across the room makes it clear what happened. Now Ben needs to drink blood to survive. An unexpected side effect. They tried different things, getting blood from the butchers, catching stray animals, even using blood from blood banks, but nothing was working. It just didn't satisfy Ben's hunger. He tried to control it, but it got painful. In a moment of desperation, Elsa offers him her own blood, and that finally worked. That was the answer. Ben felt horrible doing it, but also wanted the pain to end. Elsa, on the other hand, was happy to help him. She can just heal herself right after, and he's not going to hurt anyone else. Okay, I'll stop here. That's enough. This section turned out way longer than I expected. I'm sorry, I'm just really passionate about this part of the plot. And as a final note, I just want to clarify that their relationship is not healthy. It's not supposed to be seen as healthy or be romanticized. I find the dynamic interesting, they give me a lot of ideas, but I just feel like clarifying that because I've gotten questions about it. Moving on. Finally. Next is with a character they are least close to. I had to think a little bit for this one. Out of the main cast, Elsa is close to Dan and Daisy. They grew up together and all that. With Bonnie, she has a rivals kind of dynamic. I have a few ideas for her and Mingyu, but I ended up drawing her with Sam. Elsa does not show her real self right away. I imagine that at first she acts friendly, and then later it becomes clear who she really is. Awesome plot twist that I'm just spoiling in every video, but whatever, it's fine. Sam is immediately suspicious of Elsa. She has very good intuition. She senses that something is off, but just can't prove it. And the others notice too. Sam is always very friendly, no matter who it is, so this sudden switch was hard to not notice. But since she can't really put her finger on it, everyone just kind of brushes it off. That's all I got. I like the drawing, Sam looks really good here. Moving on to the character's hobby. When I first redesigned Elsa, I was going to keep her love for writing, but to be honest, at this point I don't think it's gonna stay. It might be something she does every once in a while, but her main hobby is magic. When Elsa was little, her grandmother gave her spellbooks made by their ancestors. Paula always took them away and hid them, but Elsa would find them and read them anyway. Their extended family always fueled her desire to study the magic. They encouraged her to practice, to become the best of the best, to continue their bloodline. Her ego got so big, and she didn't care about anything her mother had to say. She would steal both the earrings and the books and practice in secret, including doing the rituals. A more recent idea I had is each witch family has their own kind of magic, developed over the years. For example, I imagine Bonnie's family using a more traditional kind of magic, using herbs, cards, talismans, something like that. On the other hand, Elsa's family does blood magic. A lot of the spells include blood sacrifice, from just a drop to big amounts. Most of those spells are pretty difficult to pull off, but the outcome is worth it. Though this is just a loose idea right now, I'm gonna have to do some research or watch some movies or shows that have something like this. I might do something similar to Full Metal Alchemist or the blood bending from Avatar: The Last Airbender. But yeah, Elsa spends all her free time reading the spellbooks, testing the spells over and over again. She even tries to come up with new ones, or at least improve the already existing ones, and it really pays off. She is incredibly skilled and strong, but impulsive. As for the drawing, I like it. The composition was a little tricky for me, but I think I managed. Next is Halloween costume. I again drew Elsa with Ben as the Bride of Frankenstein and Frankenstein's monster because I'm so creative. Though I thought Ben would be more visible, but it is what it is. Elsa's hair was very fun to do, and I really enjoyed adding the red accents. Not much else to say here. This section also gets a bit heavy, so here are some warnings again. If that's something you don't want to see or hear, skip to the timestamp on the screen. And the very last prompt is family portrait. I always find it fun to design my characters' families, even if they're not going to be relevant in the story. I love exploring different family dynamics and taking the characters' features and creating new faces out of them. Elsa didn't have a very good home life. After she got her powers, something shifted between her and Paula. It's like Paula was more cautious around her, a lot more distant. Especially when their extended family would visit, Paula would basically disappear. Elsa's father noticed the change too. He would try to talk to Paula, ask what's wrong. He also tried to spend time with Elsa, but he worked a lot, so that was difficult. Over the years, this resentment and hatred was only growing inside Paula. She was angry all the time, at everyone and everything, but especially Elsa. The two of them were constantly arguing. Paula didn't want Elsa to use magic, but Elsa would disobey her every time. Paula felt betrayed. In her mind, Elsa was supposed to be an escape from her family. She wanted to break the cycle and be a better mother than her own mother was. But then her family found them, poisoned them, and turned her own daughter against her. Her hatred got so bad that her own husband couldn't deal with it anymore and just left the family. Paula, once again, blamed Elsa for that. As a child, Elsa was very hurt by her mother's words. She wanted the arguments to end, but as she got older, she started caring less and less. Then it grew into that same hatred. After Ben's death, the arguments got more frequent and a lot worse. Paula was heavily drinking at this point, and she would not hold back. She often brought up Ben in their arguments, just to hurt Elsa where it hurts most. Sometimes the fights would even get physical, but Paula's health was declining. She was a drinker, a smoker, barely left the house. She could only scream commands and insults at Elsa. After a few years of this life, Paula passed away. No one's sure if it was an illness, or maybe Elsa had something to do with it. After that, Elsa spent a year on her own in that empty, messy house, then packed her bags and returned to her hometown. And that's where the main story begins. As for the drawing, I tried to make it look like a crumpled up photo with a random paper covering up the father's face. I don't know how well I achieved that, but I still like it. And that's it for the challenge. Elsa is definitely one of, if not the most complicated of my characters. She is supposed to be the villain, but I don't want her to be flat and evil just for the sake of being evil, you know? I always enjoy complex villains in media and hope to achieve that in my story too. She gives me a lot of ideas, I always enjoy drawing her, so I had a lot of fun making this video. And I hope you enjoyed it too. You guys seem to enjoy this series a lot, and I'm beyond grateful for that. Just last year, I felt so awkward talking about my characters. I felt like no one was going to care about them. But a lot of you do care, which makes me so happy and really motivates me to keep working on them. But this is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all that. Check out my other socials. They'll be on the screen and in the description. Stay safe, and I'll see you in another video. Bye!